Call committee meeting to order. Welcome, thanks for showing up in the rain, and thanks to all of our members of the committee. Unfortunately, David Spears couldn't be here. He had a conflict that he couldn't get out of. Just wanted to reiterate quickly what the purpose of this committee is. It's called the Mayoral Advisory Committee, and it's exactly what it is. Our charge is, at the behest of the mayor and or the council to really look at usually fairly large projects that have strategic importance to the benefit of the city long term. Do some of the groundwork, have multiple conversations, bring in some subject matter experts from time to time, depending on the topic. And then really at the end of all of that, come up with a recommendation to the mayor that can be brought to the council at an appropriate time for a vote, whether to move forward or not, or fund the project, etc. So it's not our purpose, and we really don't have any ability to make a binding decision for the city. It's more about doing a lot of groundwork and then getting that information and a recommendation to the mayor. So
that's right.
With that, I'm assuming everybody got a copy of the minutes from our May 5th meeting, and a chance to look at those. If so, I need a motion to approve. So move. Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Motion
I'm sorry,
carried.
excuse me, who was it that made a motion? I can't see from here. Okay. Second.
Second was Tim. All right, great. Next item on the agenda is old business, and that was an update on the work that's been done around a possible sewer system for the valley portion of Sky Valley. And wanted to recap the status of that. Last meeting, we had a few action items there. One was to re-engage the engineering for EMI to look at the studies. There's been 3 studies done over the years since we're all going back into the 2006 or 8, I think. 1949.
Yeah, 49, no, 99.
What was the date on that one he did for Merrill?
2007.
That was the 7th.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. And so significant work was done there by the engineering firm, and the can was kicked down the road multiple times. So what we started out with is, a conversation. Does this really need to happen? Is it going to benefit the city long-term? Or is it something we just stop worrying about? And before we could make those final decisions, I mean, generally speaking, need to really do some work on it and really consider this for the benefit of the city long term. But there were a few action items that I undertook in the last meeting. The first one was, are there any alternatives to that sewer? Self-contained package units or other technology that could be permitted and used that would reduce the cost and minimize some of the disruption. The other piece of that was tightening up the cost estimates of this, because as we know, things have escalated in cost all over the place lately. The other thing was, what is the county willing to do, if anything, to help out? And the other part of the question was, is this dependent? Is this something we need? Forgetting about any future development, is this something we need anyway? And then will it enable, some appropriate investment in the city from others? that would benefit us from a standpoint of protecting the residential nature that we have, giving us some conveniences potentially, and then expanding maybe some condominiums and other single-family homes in some of the undeveloped land, which would, be a benefit of getting us to a critical mass of revenue inbound, so that in the light of all the expanding costs of providing city services, we would be able to do that and then potentially either reduce the millage rates or keep them even. So big strategic issue, very complicated, a huge amount of moving parts with this. And so that's a quick update of kind of what brought us here. And then some work was done with EMI and some of the other status. And Tim, could you be willing to give a little update on conversation with EMI?
Yeah, first of all, EMI is the engineering firm that they do most of their business in Northeast Georgia. They do Reagan County. They do not do the city of Clayton, right? EMI was not the engine that they did.
They did the Reagan County Water and Sewer Authority, but not the
So,
city.
yeah, they do the sewer authority. They do Helen, what's the area where, south of Gainesville, what was the golf course, Chateau on, what is that? Brazelton. They, try to think of some other towns that they do, but they've been involved, and they were the firm engaged originally in 07 by Merrill to do a study. And as we may talk down the road, in that study, unfortunately, a soil study was done. And that could be very significant to us in one of our potential solutions. So, what more?
We've been upgrading our study and.
Yeah, we have engaged, we met with Jerry Hood, who is the president of EMI, this week, and asked him to sit down with his crew and update the study. We're going to incur some cost. We have not heard back what that's going to be. But it's the original study that everybody was in favor of, you all probably heard, would be a collection station behind the old lodge, a forced main, which would go up Ridgepole to Evergreen, and then it would be gravity fed all the way down to the Raven County Water and Sewer Authority's plant down in Raven Gap, at the old through the loom plant. And it's it is primarily, it's a system that would serve what commercial, and we, by commercial, we consider the timeshares, the condos, the lodge, the clubhouse, and some of the support buildings that timeshares have, like their laundry over there next to the post office, and also where their pool is and things like that.
Okay.
We want to say more.
I think maybe we outlined, from the last meeting, that regardless of future development, those areas you mentioned eventually are going to need a
Yes,
solution.
I mean, if all of you that have been here for a while are probably aware of the timeshares that are on Tahoe, which were there 4 buildings, I think, that have 8 units each. They have a sewer system where there's, it all drains down along the cart path on this edge of 18 cart path, and it is pumped all the way down behind the Steve Mason's, the other little Steve Mason's maintenance shed, and there it dumps into a hole, so to speak, and then goes from there.
Old style septic, basically.
And that system, I'm told, and I have not witnessed this, does indeed sometimes overflow and stuff goes into the creek. I don't know what the name of that creek that comes in down by the practice green and connects right there where we just did a new culvert. There's nobody here that lives in Valley View, but Valley View has a similar system in which basically, as I remember, each one of those buildings has, Moody, I don't know, does each building have their own septic system? You remember?
I think it all eventually goes into one pipe.
Yeah, and it has problems too, that we haven't had it recently, but when, next month, when everybody's here, and it puts a lot of pressure on that system, and that needs to be cleaned up.
Does that all collect at that lift station next to the cart path on 17?
I don't know whether it collects there, but that's an important place. There's one down below my house, and I think most everybody knows I live right on the number 12 tee box. There's a collection point which sometimes bubbles over and runs down the cart path. And I don't know what, that may be part of the drain field. Moody,
I think the drain field is basically below the 12 T.
all right, so that's below my house. And it may be that it goes down to that point where there's a wooden
It looks
door.
like there's a lift station there. It looks like there's a forced main that goes uphill across that small creek.
There is.
The creek that runs on the edge of, or the north edge of 17.
And for those of you that don't, a forced main is a pressure rise where you're pumping something through the pipe. And then there's a host of other condos sprinkled around and timeshares. And the concept is to tie all those together. According to the study we had, it could all be gravity fed to a collection point behind the old lodge. That was one of the plans.
So one of the conclusions that we made is that all needs to be addressed long-term for sure. So based on that, we need to do something other than septic for those areas. And so now,
Other than what?
septic.
Oh.
So that's what we said, okay. Forget about the development for a moment, any future new development, we need to solve that problem long-term. And what are the alternatives? And that's what the committee's in process of gathering that information and talking with the engineering firm who's going to give us an option for a self-contained package unit. Yes, sir.
Would it be possible to build those facilities now with septic? Or that have the regulations changed? In other words, if I wanted to replicate Valley View,
I don't think, I don't know that we'd have enough land to do that and have appropriate drain fields.
To answer one question, yes, restrictions have changed.
right?
I know they've changed for single family, and, you know, Moody, you could probably address this better. than
Yeah, I
me,
would
but-
say it's highly unlikely that you would ever get a permit for a home site sewage disposal for a multifamily.
For any new multifamily?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the-
Well, we haven't mentioned, Bill, that the grant, so. You want me to talk about it? You want to talk
Well,
about
I
it?
can talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
you know, we did obtain a $3 million grant to get this going for specifically this purpose. And, you know, that was a couple of years ago, actually. And there were some timelines on that we needed to meet, and obviously, we weren't ready to commit to anything at that point. Jason did a good follow-up with the government organization, and that's still alive.
Yes, sir.
But time's running out, so we need to come to some sort of commitment fairly soon, otherwise that $3 million.
Just, I don't know if you can see this, but this is Tahoe Lane. The timeshares are basically right here. And then you've got Valley View, which is right here. This is the old lodge, basically sits right here. This is Ridgepole. The old lodge sits here, so this would be the collection point. Then you've got more up here on where's over here, there's up on Overlook, there's more condos, there's timeshares up here. So the idea is that they would all feed to this point right here.
So everything on Condo Hill would be joined in as well?
Yes.
Excuse me, for those who've only been here 4 years, where's Condo Hill?
Behind the old lodge.
Okay, so the end of Sky Valley Way, and all that up there. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of figured, but I thought that. That's a great name for that. I learned that.
Okay, so that's basically the recap of the status, what's kind of gone before, what the considerations are. And now we're engaging EMI to look at the alternatives they believe that could be permitted, redo the cost estimates for the project. And at that point, then, we'll have to get together again and make some decisions on the next steps.
Are y'all considering it all tying in with the county?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's gonna cost a whole lot more money, but the other thing I was gonna ask you was, well, what about the water system? Because I would presume I assume they're gonna want the water system too.
No,
No?
The only role the county would have, Steve, is that they would treat the effluent that we would send to them. So we would pay a fee, so much per 1,000 gallons of effluent coming into their system. One of the things, just to take it a step further, Bill alluded to a package plant. I was under the impression and had been told, Moody, you maybe remember this, some years ago, that we could not get a permit because of all the capacity that the county plant has. We could not get a permit to do a package plant up here. That seems to have changed. One of the things is that the cost of pipe nowadays, it's gone more than double. So there's a lot of pipe involved in doing that, because you would pipe it,
6 miles.
yeah, you pipe it from right here, all the way down Ridgepole to Evergreen, and then this doesn't have the new, back entrance, this. Yeah. So you're going all the way down here.
Time to crush a run there.
Yeah, there's Crusher Run, and Kelly's Creek is down here. So is that what it is, 6 miles?
Yes, sir, it'll be around 6 miles, give or take.
Yeah,
A lot of trenching and a lot of pipe.
be a lot of disruption. And it would be probably not economically feasible for us.
And one of the things that was pointed out is if we do a package plant, which we probably now could get permitted, then you need to disperse the effluent that's been treated somewhere. The plants that EMI has done is they've sprayed and then did some drip, but you have to buy or control the land on which you spread this. And that is going to be an expense, one, to acquire the land or secure it in some way.
Yeah. Potentially get Merrill donated.
Yeah, what we would need, and it would be,
Has Merrill offered to donate?
He has not, because we haven't had this in-depth conversation with him yet. My last conversation with them is it says, well, it looks like we've got some commitment from this committee that we think we need to move forward. And we're doing some more work on it. And at the point where we say, we're going to move forward, then the wheels really start moving with Merrill. He was excited about it because they really want to do something here. And we had a meeting, gosh, a year ago, probably face to face. And I said, we were 2 or 3 of us there. You were there, right? And, you know, and we had a professional planning company that they use. And I think we finally got to a point where we kind of agreed what we would like to see in the valley and what we would like to see maybe over near the overlook would be more commercialized there, not really commercialized inside the valley. So there was a meeting of the minds there, which was very positive. And we thought we could move forward. Now, they've got it on hold because the fundamental thing that the hurdle you gotta get over is what we're talking about here. Once we get to if we can get some capacity or ability to expand the capacity, then they're ready to start moving forward, doing the feasibility, the economic impact studies, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's very important capacity. What we've talked about is having capacity to do some development. So whenever we do, it's not just to serve the existing needs, it would be able to serve some other needs.
Now, I'm not sure about this affluent that you'd have trucked to spread somewhere, but I know there've been a lot of media attention down south of Augusta area on the farms down there, and they've asked the state to get involved to stop the trucks from coming out. And there's a term for the soil, it's not enrichment, but because it's very smelly, it draws a lot of flies, and people are complaining about the trucks coming in and spreading the effluent.
Well, we had that conversation and there's almost no odor with the way these plants work. It's almost drinkable. What
Okay,
gets-
you're talking about 2 different things. He's calling it influence.
Yeah.
But he really means the solid waste that comes
Yeah,
up.
the solid waste is processed differently.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
What's coming out is liquid that's been, you know, treated.
Right.
And Robert, this.
And no trucks.
Yeah, no, this will be pumped from a plant somewhere to be determined
Gotcha.
that would be within range that's easily
Okay,
pumped.
I thought y'all would be well aware of that solid problems there.
Appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, that's a major problem down there.
Well, we all live here too, so.
So three things. I hate to preface the first one with in Florida, but I can't help it. But in Florida, every municipal waste treatment plant sells the reclaimed water. And it's used for irrigation purposes. Now, they have 2 different types of water that comes out of these plants. They have water that meets the requirements for reclaimed water in terms of the parts per million of whatever, I can't remember what it is right now, that are in there, and so it can be reclaimed water. But if the plant gets upset for some reason, then they end up with groundwater, they call it, and they have to then spray that on a spray field and let it percolate into the ground. So, you know, but most of the time it's reclaimed water.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, I realize that the course has lots of water in the lake, but you could maybe, that's one way to dispose of the good effluent.
Right.
Secondly, if we already know we've got 6 miles of pipe, and we already think that that's not going to be feasible from an economic standpoint, why are you updating the forced main study? That I presume the study we're updating is the 2017 study.
Yeah, but the cost he's coming back and doing is for a self-contained plant.
And the
Okay.
2017 plant had that option in it.
Okay, you're right, I guess it did, I focused on the pumping. And then thirdly, with regard to Merrill land development, I presume that you're considering a comprehensive master development agreement
Correct.
to basically say, as you said, this is what we want. Well, you put it in the agreement, and then everyone understands this is how it's gonna work.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Yeah, it's a master plan.
Are y'all also considering a special tax district to handle all this?
Have not had that discussion. At the end of the day, what we're committed to is only the people that benefit would be assessed access or a charge for this. The rest of us, no.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously, the majority of the Sky Valley, there's no way they could be tied in,
No way,
Right.
so.
yeah, and we don't want to pay for that.
You don't, you sure don't.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy.
That's why it was important to get that grant and then potentially look at some other, if there's a gap, some other options or sources of funding, including Merrill's tie-in fees and that get built into the sale of whatever he builds, et cetera. You know, we do have an option too, because of our low debt ratio in this city, which is one of the lowest in the state of Georgia. I think it's 11%. We can potentially get the USDA loan real low, similar to what happened for the water system. You know, and advertise that over 20 or 30 years to close any little gap we might have.
And pay for it with revenues from connection fees and ongoing user fees.
Yep.
And the $3 million.
Question, Jason, do you have any update on that grant? Because that's been going on for a while, as to whether or not they would favorably consider a package plan?
I don't think they ever.
We would have to update the scope of the project. I don't want to say anything too premature, but I can say the grant. Right now, as the chairman said, EMI is revising the study. One of the things, the package plant, if that were to be feasible, then as we're updating the scope of the project, we would provide that information to them to make sure that's going to be qualified for that. But everything I've been told so far, the grant is still valid, but we're just having, I'll know more once we update.
So you don't really know whether they would look favorably on that or not?
I tend to feel like they will.
And I'm not asking-
It's not up to them. I don't, it's not up to Chief, it would be up to the authority, CPD and others. Yeah,
Right.
Well, I wasn't asking for a conclusion anyhow, just a feeling.
Yeah.
I haven't been told no on anything. No,
Okay.
but that, so-
But Jerry seems to think that we'd be okay, because primarily one of the things you have to do is the soil test.
Soil study. Yeah.
Soil study, which has been done,
Yeah.
et cetera. So, and if we move forward, he's willing to help us with that permitting process.
You mentioned the soil study. Was anything good out of that? Can you summarize that?
I don't have that.
we haven't studied it, Steve.
Oh, okay, I thought you said they had.
We have,
The company's done it.
a very good soil study was done, according to Jerry Hood, who's the only person we know that's got a copy of this study.
Okay.
You said it was a go.
Yeah.
It was a go. The study said it was a go. And it was a very expensive study according to Mr. Hood, and that's good.
The mayor,
That
the
we
mayor
want to pay
paid
for-
for it.
That we want to pay for it, yeah.
Very thorough.
Okay,
Good question, Sean.
anything else? All right, thank you for the input, appreciate it. And we'll keep you up to date. Second, a new business is we've got some input from a citizen or citizens about considering the EV charging station or stations here. You know, we haven't even thought about this as a committee, so, you know, at this point, we've invited Moody to kind of come and educate us a little bit on what options are and costs and all that kind of stuff, just so we as a committee kind of can get a start on looking at this.
Bill, if I may add, I have had several citizens contact me and express their idea that we as a city need to have this available for our citizens and visitors. I know the club has had some issues with people driving their cars up onto the club pavilion, into the club pavilion to plug their cars into the 220 line at the club, and they were not.
Oh, so we have one already.
And they were not happy with that, so.
We've also had a couple, emails come through that shouldn't do this, doesn't matter here, it's kind of, you know.
But then I said that we would be looking for grants, and they said, okay.
And by the way, it does matter here. I mean, you just look at where the automotive companies are going and switching over to EVs, and more people are getting them. It's just gonna be,
It's in
I'm not
The
getting them.
number one selling car in the world last month was the Tesla Model Y.
Was it? That was the number one selling car, was the electric
And
Tesla?
it's the number one in the United States. If you eliminate the
Yeah,
Ford
it's coming.
F-150.
It's coming now.
Okay. Moody, would you mind kind of,
Well, I'm,
Everybody might not know Moody. Moody is a former council person. He was a former,
City manager, too.
oh, I didn't realize
I was a
that.
former dishwasher in between.
He was head of public works for the city of Clayton, and you were one of the original people that Merrill hired, or not, that was hired up here. You put in some of this water system.
Yeah, I came in 1973.
so he's also our historian.
Yeah, that's the story. Yeah.
And drove by them.
Oh, yeah.
When Moody was on council, I had asked him, whatever that was in the 2020, to look into EV chargers. So we've been talking about it. Moody did. He did a study and presented it to the council. It kind of got put on the back burner, so. And plus, he has a car, a Tesla, and so he is very knowledgeable. So take it, Moody.
Well, there's basically two types of chargers. What they call the destination charger, where you go to a place and you charge, and you're not in a great big hurry, you charge overnight. Or it's a very slow charger. And then there's the DC fast charger that you can add 200 miles of range in 30 minutes. That's for people who are traveling. So the homeowners in Sky Valley should put in their own charger. I have a charger at my house, you know, George Power gives all sorts of rebates. I charge every night. I get about the equivalent of 600 miles per gallon of gas if I were buying gas for the same amount of money. George Power has very cheap rates for EV chargers. So the homeowners, if they have an EV, they should put in their own charger.
Because that's an overnight charge.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, I could get away with charging once a week. If you only go 50 miles a day, whatever around town, it's no big deal. But if you're a traveler, and you're not stopping at Sky Valley, you just want to do some charging, go to wherever your destination, that would require a DC fast charger. And you're getting into a fair amount of money for those. I'm sure there's grants, you know, anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 for a DC charging station.
One charger,
No, probably maybe 3 or 4 actual plugs.
50,000 to 100,000.
And that right now is in a terrible state of flux because Ford and General Motors and some of the others now are looking at swapping. There's basically two standards in the United States. Tesla has far the most number of cars, and they have the best charging infrastructure. And then there's what's called CCS, which all the other manufacturers are using now. But they're not nearly as reliable as Tesla. And Ford and General Motors, it recently said they're changing to the Tesla standard. And then
What's behind the EV joint? What are those chargers?
they have both. They have one DC fast charger, which is a CCS, and it's not a super fast charger, but it'll charge a car in an hour, and you can add a couple hundred miles of range.
Yeah.
You can go eat, whatever, and do that. And then they have two of the slower, AC chargers, alternating current chargers. And they only add 20 to 40 miles of range per hour of charge. So and those type of things that you want to charge, continue tripping, they're gonna have to be located where you can spend the night, or you don't want to sit in your car 2 or 3 hours generally to charge. I guess you really had to.
I had a citizen, a mother, call me at Christmas time last year, and she was most upset because her daughter had arrived in the city in an electric vehicle and didn't know where to charge. So I told her to call you, Moody.
I think I did.
You did take her?
Good
Okay.
choice. They found some-
Because these are reasonable, yeah.
Are there other locations in the area other than I've seen the one behind Universal Joint that you mentioned?
There's not any fast chargers, there's a couple of restaurants that have them, or did have them.
Someone said that Jewett Farms had one, but I don't know if
Yeah, they
that's
do.
true.
They have-
They have one, okay, but Jewett Farms has
There's
one.
several of them, Franklin.
I don't know if it's a fast one or a slow one.
Moody, do cars have a charging system where you could pull in and plug into a 110 outlet?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and that, you only get maybe 5 miles of range per every hour of charge, but if you're using it at home, I used the 110 charger for almost a month while my other charger was being repaired, and that didn't have any problems, but I was only going 20, 30 miles a day, and that was no issue. But if you're looking for, like, someone that wants to come up and play golf, and while they're out playing, they can get away with a slow charger. Put 1 or 2 at the clubhouse, and people could charge then.
I know Jason has talked to Georgia Power, and we thought we were gonna have a Georgia Power rep at this meeting, but at the last moment, he couldn't make it. Jason, you need to say anything about what you talked to him about?
He basically provided a couple brochures. I've got a couple copies being distributed. I was really hoping he was gonna be able to, I invited him to this meeting. He was planning to be here. He had a scheduling conflict last minute. He was trying to get one of his colleagues to step in, so we sent him a Zoom link, and to my knowledge, he is not, they've
I
not
resent
joined
it.
in, so.
He's not there.
I was really not thinking he was gonna be here as the expert. I was not, and I was gonna lean on him to do all the heavy lift as far as explaining, because they're the ones selling it, but,
Now, I think I was told, and I'm not sure by whom, that Georgia Power has a program where they will insert the charger into a location, and then they get all the money from it.
They own it.
They own it,
Yeah.
yeah.
there are several ways that you can structure the deal, correct?
Yeah.
Madam Mayor? I really wish Scott would be here today to explain that, but, basically what he said, there's 2 different kinds of chargers. Obviously, the one that's the more expensive, he had said that we might wanna, if we had something like that, it might be like a credit card component where that user has to put their card in and they pay so much per an hourly rate, whereas the slow charger, that might be more of a complimentary type charger. Whereas the thought might be if somebody were to come up, because we get people now, where's the bathroom, whatever, they may come up, they sit out here for 30 minutes, an hour, and they bump 15, 20 miles and they go about their way. But those are the 2 options, the fast and the slow, but really, I don't really have any hard numbers, but as Moody said, the fast chargers can be substantially more expensive than the slow kind.
I just don't see a slow charger doing us any good. Somebody's gonna get here in the morning, plug in and be there all day long, and nobody else is gonna get to use it.
And plus they make it to Clayton on that charge, huh?
Yeah, that's about it.
Because it's down.
I run
Can't make it back.
I stopped in a hotel in Daytona Beach because it had a charger, and I was all set up, and I charged, and the lady pulled up beside me all upset because she had an electric car, she didn't know anything about it. It was almost dead, she had to return it. Would I let her charge instead of me? And I said, okay, if you want to charge 2 or 3 hours, then I'll come back and charge when you get through. She never got through. She locked it. It was locked in her car, so I never got to use it. It was there all night. So that's the disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly.
I could, if the timeshare had the funds, I could see where it would be nice for them to put maybe 1 charger in each little group of timeshare units, 1 or 2. They're not that expensive. The charger itself is $300-400. a couple thousand maybe to get it installed.
Is that a 110?
That's the 220.
It's a 220, okay.
Yeah, you
So
can-
really, you're saying there's three levels of charges.
Well, yeah, the level 1 is the 110, which is extremely slow. Level 2 is the 240, 220,
Right,
and then the next.
and the level two is what most people put in their house. Okay, and then there's the
The DC fast.
The other
chargers,
one-
those
But 440, I guess.
all sorts, there's the standards, there's really no standards. It's,
so
some are 400 volts, some are 800 volts, some are 350 kilowatts, some are 40 kilowatts. It's just ridiculous kind of how they're.
I think if the city's involved with this, I wouldn't be giving away anything, I'm sorry, but I'd be charging no matter what level you're at, whether it's a DC charger, definitely. I mean, if someone else if Georgia Power or someone else is going to pay the whole freight, well, they can get the revenue then, but if the city's gonna be involved with it, I think the city needs to get a piece of the revenue, whether it's DC or level 2.
There are most of the 240 volts that I see around are free. There's some up in by the Fun Factory, there's 6 Tesla chargers there, no cost to anybody.
Well, right, because they go inside and they spend money while they're charging.
Well, and a lot of motels do them for their customers.
You picked a hotel because it had free charging, even though you had to use it.
Into the room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but
Exactly. We,
The fast
the
charge-
city of Sky Valley has nothing they could add to offset that cost.
now see, the country club does, because someone comes and plays a round of golf 4 or 5 hours while they're car charging.
Sure.
Makes sense. Although I've been to places, let me think about it. It's something gardens, Bach Tower Gardens in Central Florida. We were
Lake
actually
Wales.
there and we were actually having a picnic after we walked around. And we watched people fumble their way through the charging system, which either was one of the ones that has like a membership, where you have an account and you basically punch in your account number and you plug it in and your account gets charged. You can actually swipe your credit card in there as well.
Those things are notoriously unreliable.
Well, this
Well,
one's
as long as you just hold your phone up to it, you know, they work. Sometimes.
I'm telling you, they spent 20 minutes trying to get that thing to work. I think they finally did because they walked away, but anyway, it was it was entertaining for us.
The one behind, the fast charge, behind Eugene, is that free?
No.
No, it's great.
I think it's operated by Georgia Power.
Yeah.
It was originally done Chamber of Commerce anyway, it didn't work out very well. and Georgia Power wound up taking it over. But it's probably relative to gasoline, it's at least half as expensive, maybe 2/3 as expensive as gas. They're not cheap like even your home charging is.
Kind of like picking, you want to pick the least expensive gas if you have a choice. But sometimes you got to buy the more expensive gas because otherwise you're out.
Yeah.
I don't know if how the billing works and how much, if there's a break-even point, you can actually make money. The fast charger, when you get a fast charger station, there's all sorts of apps where if you're traveling, you plan your thing and you go on there and it tells you where the chargers are. If you have a DC fast charger here, you would show up on all those apps and people would plan their trips, expecting to be able to use that. The only way that would benefit Sky Valley maybe is they stopped here and decided to go around or something.
So Moody, based on what you were saying earlier, these chargers aren't interchangeable. You can't go to a Tesla station with a Chevy Bolt, plug it in.
No, but that's changing right now. It's.
They'll have a
it's
universal
looking
plug.
as though it's all gonna go to the state.
Well, they have adapters on that.
They do have adapters the other way, where I can take my Tesla, put an adapter on it and plug it in down here. But this one, the other way around, they're not done, but that's where it's headed.
Yeah.
Years,
People want those already.
But that's.
So do you have to know what kind of chargers are at Buc-ee's? I don't
Just
just
there.
Mostly Teslas, but they're also the CCS ones also there. Yeah, I would.
Buc-ee's is big enough to have both.
I was shocked, after going to the same one down there halfway point in Georgia, all of a sudden, it's like, they're putting in charging stations here. They must, of course, in true Buc-ee's Texas fashion, they don't have 4, they don't have 8. I think they've got 24.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And you go inside and you buy a whole lot of junk.
You don't like puppies? It's a unique experience. you know.
I like Buc-ee's because the pull through of the pumps are so large that I don't have any problem with the motorhome.
That's exactly my thought too.
That's another problem with the standard now. Not everybody puts their charger on the same location on the cars. And people who have, there are certain Tesla places that do have a charger for the CCS. But the cables are short, so people normally take up 2 charging spots in order to plug in, to get their cable plugged in. And if you're taking up 2 and some guy goes up to Tesla and he wants to charge, you got it blocked, there's.
So we're liable to have fisticuffs, is that what you're saying?
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that this is gonna be a while before everything gets sorted out. There's some uniformity to it.
It's a year or 2 away from getting any consistency in the chargers.
I think Holly had the solution for that person that time at Christmas. Called
Just
Moody.
call it.
I can see cars lined up in front of Moody's house.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 other Teslas I see.
Maybe you need a business
I
license.
assume They charge at home.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's that far away, because I see these news reports every day, and here I just pulled one up from 2 weeks, a week ago.
What is that?
Starting
What's that
Starting
new
early next
company
year,
that's
40
making
customers
vehicles
will
in
have access to
Atlanta?
more than 12,000 Tesla superchargers.
There's a new company.
What
There's
is,
a
I'm
new
sorry,
company.
didn't hear you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Cal.
So this is dated May 25. Starting early next year, Ford EV customers will have access to more than 12,000 Tesla superchargers across the US and Canada, in addition to the over 10,000 DC fast chargers. So, I mean, this is happening. I would say this time next year, you're gonna have Ford and probably Chevy are all gonna be looking for
And
Tesla.
poor Jason,
I mean, the
I see all
automotive
the
companies are
plans.
switching over to EVs.
Yeah.
Total.
And so here's the thing, I mean, I've told, everyone has anecdotal stories. Friends of ours who are home share people in Scott Valley called me because they had a friend visiting with them who had, I think it was a Tesla. And I didn't know Moody had one, otherwise I would.
Sorry.
No, tell them. But it was in the winter, and apparently her boyfriend handles all that stuff, I think was the story. And they were trying to figure out where she could charge it, because she was on the 110 circuit and was getting, 5 miles an hour, and she needed to charge it so she could go back to Atlanta.
Mhm.
And so, anyway.
So she could sit here for a week and charge it and then get to Atlanta.
I had 2 people come to my house to charge. They were staying on the same street more or less. And, I just saw when they had a Tesla, and I asked one person if they had a place to charge, and they said, no, what do I do? And I told them they come to my house and park overnight and charge, which they did. I have a rental house, the VRBO thing, and I advertise on my description that it has a EV charger.
Oh,
And in a year and a half, I've had one person use it. But, I think that's gonna change.
it's gonna change. In the meantime, poor Jason's gonna be looking for possible grants. He does that in the middle of the night when I send him emails.
So I like the idea of Georgia Power putting them in and owning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes us out of that loop.
Yeah, we don't need to be trying to manage that.
No,
But according to what Jason handed out, Georgia Power has basically does the design work for you, basically says, okay, based upon what information we've collected here, here's what you need, how many you need, and here's what the best place to locate.
that's why
We
we were,
got a
hoping-
whole turkey piece of,
that's why we were hoping he would show up.
That also takes you out of maintenance.
that's right,
Yeah.
exactly, which we don't want to be.
You should
And
just do it
upgrades
as,
down
you
the
should do
road.
it as with a franchise fee, like, don't we get something from the cable companies?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so why couldn't you do the same thing here?
I don't know. It's something to look into.
It's possible, yeah.
Also, we've got some property that's possibly going to be sold to somebody who wants to build condos, so we need to encourage them if they do this, and if we, Jason, you wanna talk about that or not? The 10 And there's it's,
Well, there's a piece that's about a third of it's actually wetlands, but there is a piece that there's been some very, very preliminary discussions about if they can do multifamily.
yeah,
It's up in the pickleball overlook area, Sky Valley Way area, but the hindrance is gonna be sewer.
Yeah.
But, or lack of.
yeah.
No, but,
You know, that would be something that if we could get, if that happened, then we'd say, hey, you gotta put in electric vehicle charging. That's way in the
Right, I
future.
think anybody building a spec house right now ought to put one in,
Yeah,
just
Mhm.
make it that much more saleable.
Anything else?
Yeah, it could be as simple as a.
An extension cord.
Just a outlet, like a dryer
Yeah.
outlet, so, okay.
I have seen in news reports that they're trying to develop a pad like like a,
Mhm.
that you got an iPhone on too.
Yeah.
You just drive into the garage and it charges.
Well, they've also put it in the road, you just drive down the road and charges you go.
Well, it'll work for us too. We'll just stand on it and get recharged. Need that.
You lose all your hair, but you're
Thank you, Moody.
Yeah, we turned her.
Is there anybody online with questions?
So on the objections that you heard, is it to is the expectation that it would cost the city money?
I think a little bit of it was that, right?
Yes.
Until
They
you,
didn't think taxpayers' money should go towards it, and I said that we were looking for grants, and then they said, okay.
we agree with that too.
Well, and I would agree with that, with the caveat that says, depending on how much you charge, and if it's a revenue source.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like a utility.
Yeah, to pay itself back.
But
Yeah.
at this
Why
point, to pay back $100,000 might be a really long time.
And we're going to have the discussion as to where to put them.
Right.
There's 6 or 8 movies driving.
Yeah.
Well, the house below me, they have 10, 12 people parked
You
there.
know, we might have someone at our city pavilion, because they could be sitting in the pavilion, and they have bathrooms there, and then that's way in the future.
According to the chief, we have a drop plug and somebody pulled their electric car there about a month ago.
And our bathroom or in the pavilion,
Yeah, they pushed all the picnic tables out of the way and pulled up inside and charged, three of them
oh,
off.
they're-
Is there 220 down there at the city pavilion?
no, it's.
Probably
Yes, one, it's just a little drop.
Well, pickleball courts may be a good place because they could pull up, plug in and go play
Play
pickleball.
football and go to the
Yeah, that
bathroom.
parking strip just beyond the pickleball
Yeah.
court there.
Sounds like you need to designate the pavilion as a no parking zone, so you.
You think it's Stockton Steve? Yeah.
Been trying to keep people off the grass forever.
Yeah.
Do we need a new ordinance
Yeah.
regarding theft of electricity?
We'll get our city attorney.
There are laws against theft, period. So I would have to add to it.
We might have some other priorities right now.
The second home run, I did read about people, running the cord, unplugging the dryer and running the cord out through the window and charging their car overnight. In general, you're talking a couple of bucks, maybe,
Yeah.
but still. It is
Not to mention break-in.
Charging without the homeowner knowing that they're using their facility to charge their car.
We might have to hire Moody just to walk around and drive around and check all these things.
As long as it's full of charge.
He's a lot easier to charge, yeah.
Well, again, I said charging home Georgia Power has a rate of 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which is almost free. I mean, I can go easily 600 miles on $3 worth of electricity.
Wow. Wonderful.
That is wonderful.
Why are they selling it so cheap?
Because the demand hasn't risen yet. When it does, that's going up.
Power companies, they have a problem at night because nobody's using power and they got all this generation capacity and it's hard to shut down and start those things back up. So they're looking for ways to spread that load 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Charging.
Yeah.
In 5 years from now, when that demand overnight climbs, that price goes
Yeah,
up.
it may not even be 5 years.
Well, in California, they told people not to charge them.
Yeah, well, everything's weird there. So, okay, thank you all for all the great input and conversation.
And if y'all show up
Committee.
next time, it's Citizen of the Month.
Anybody on the committee have any other comments or questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you all.
Thank y'all for coming.